Hi, I'm Matt, and welcome to Tech Tested. In this short series, we're going to be building a PC, but with a twist. You get to pick the parts. Now before we get started, don't forget to hit subscribe so you can keep up with this build series, and hit like if you like the video. Now on to the show. As a PC enthusiast, I love to build computers just as much as the next person, but you guys really don't want to see me just building computers with old parts that I have lying around all the time. So I had the idea of letting you guys build the next computer I'm going to be using. Now one of the fun things about this build is you get to determine whether it's a complete potato or a performance PC, at least within the realm of my spare parts. So what we're going to do is we're going to put polls in our community tab that you guys can engage with and pick the parts that you want us to use in this build. Those polls will be up for 1 week, and then the following week I will build the PC and run it through its paces to see how it performs. Now moving on to the parts, instead of having you try to match a CPU and motherboard platform for us to start with, I'm just going to have you guys pick the CPUs, and I have motherboards to match that will go with that processor. The platforms we can pick from on the Intel side are LGA 1366 and LGA 775. Keep in mind the motherboard I have for LGA 775 only takes DDR2 memory, and we will be limited to 8 GB at most. Our LGA 1366, on the other hand, we can go all the way up to 48 GB of memory. The CPUs to pick from for the LGA 775 socket are just a Core 2 Quad 8300 or a Core 2 Duo E8400. I'm kind of limited on those, and I don't have a lot of spare CPUs for that platform lying around. On the 1366 platform, I have an i7 950, an i7 930, and a Xeon W5580. All of those are 4 cores with 8 threads, but should be pretty decent performers. Now those familiar with the channel know I've got quite a bit more going for me on the AMD side. We have processors ranging all the way from AM2 to AM3+, starting with the Athlon 64 3800+, and an Athlon 64 X2 3000+. Those will drop into an AM2 Plus motherboard, and we will again be limited to 8 GB of DDR2 memory if you guys choose to go with that platform. Moving on to the AM3 platform, we have a plethora of CPUs to choose from. We have several dual-core Athlons and Phenom processors, as well as quad-core Athlon and Phenom processors. Those will be linked in the poll, but there's quite a few of them to go through, so I'm not going to list them all. Then moving on to the AM3 Plus platform, we're kind of limited here again. We have only an FX 8320 and an 8370. All the motherboards for these CPUs are ATX motherboards, so we're going to have to be using a full ATX case as well. Now we move on to the juicy part that you guys are all waiting for. We have a series of graphics cards that you get to choose from, ranging from potato to performance. Starting off with NVIDIA, we have 2 GTX 260s, which can be run in single card or SLI. We have 2 GTX 470s, but those have water blocks on them, and I don't have the original coolers for them. So if we go that route, we have to liquid cool them, which means we'll have a custom loop in our system. We also have a GTX 460 that is currently in my NAS, but I'm willing to pull it out of that so we can use it for this build if you guys prefer that. And last but not least for NVIDIA, we have a GTX 970, which is the clear performance king out of all of these NVIDIA cards. Moving on to our AMD graphics cards, we are a little bit more limited. We have an R9 270, an HD 7970, and an R9 290X. Now we move on to RAM, and you guys kind of have the pick of the litter here. We can go up to 8 GB of RAM on the LGA 775 and the AM2 Plus platforms, and we can go all the way up to 32 GB on the AM3 and AM3 Plus platforms, or we can get up to 48 GB of memory on the LGA 1366 socket. However, I want you guys to realize you don't have to go with the most amount of RAM. You guys can bottleneck me on a low amount of RAM too. You can make a potato or you can make a machine. It's all up to you. When it comes to storage, we're kind of limited here. I might even have to purchase some storage for this. I have a 120 GB SSD and an assortment of hard drives, but I don't know if any of those hard drives even work. So that might be something where I actually have to purchase a part for this build. When it comes to cases, we have a couple options, but I don't know the names of all these cases. Okay, when shooting the video, I was wrong. I was actually able to find out what the models for the cases we have are, and starting with the smallest case, we have the Thermaltake Versa H22. For the mid-size, we have the Antec 900 Ultimate Gaming Case, and for the last one, we have a Cooler Master CM Stacker with a rather interesting Coolants expansion on the top for custom loops. And rounding it off to our cooling, we've got a plethora of case fans you can choose from, but for the CPU, I think I'm either gonna buy a Hyper 212 Evo or some other higher end CPU cooler, just because it'll make it easier than trying to sort through all of my CPU coolers for you guys to pick from. We also have 5¼ inch bay drive expansion, which we can put disk drives in, a fan controller, or nothing. That's gonna be up to you guys too. As far as power supplies go, I'm kind of stuck with the 700 watt power supply that I pulled from a previous build, and I don't have a lot of other options that would be compatible with all these platforms. As far as SLI support, if you guys choose to go that route, only my LGA 1366 and AM3 Plus platforms will support those, so keep that in mind when choosing your parts. If you guys have any questions about the parts listed, we're going to have a page in our Discord where we can discuss all those parts and you can ask questions in the community or I will answer those for you. So the thing to keep in mind when you're picking the parts for this PC is compatibility not only with the graphics cards, motherboards, and RAM, but you also need to keep in mind case compatibility since a water cooling loop probably won't fit in our smallest case. Another thing that would help a lot in this series is if you guys shared this video so we can get a larger pool of people involved in picking the parts for this system. Now hurry up, get in the community tab and pick those parts so we can see how the YouTube PC performs. Thanks for watching, I can't wait to see how this thing turns out and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.